This is HTV, now the latest news from ITN with Dennis Touhy.
Hello, this is the news from ITN. Tonight's main story. British reinforcements arrive, but the Bosnian Serbs refuse to release more hostages. Hopes are fading tonight for the early release of the 250 United Nations hostages. The Bosnian Serbs have kept up their tough stance all day, refusing to free the men, among them 23 Britons, until NATO guarantees there'll be no more airstrikes. The Foreign Secretary, Douglas Hurd, says their release is now top priority for the new Rapid Reaction Force in Bosnia. In Croatia, the 11 British soldiers who are free have spent the day being debriefed.
Not quite home, but safe and free, and in good company with no shortage of a helping hand. On crutches and in military pyjamas, after their ordeal as human shields for the Serbs, 2 Welsh Fusiliers arrived in Split to join their colleagues. 11 British soldiers were released yesterday, but these 2 were kept in hospital overnight in Zagreb to rest. Their arrival came in the midst of the British arms build-up. 17 flights today, bringing in ammunition, mortars, artillery shells, and all the manpower and instruments of war deemed necessary to support peace and the peacekeepers. There's tons of equipment and ordnance arriving every hour. This is the biggest British military airlift mounted since the United Nations came to the former Yugoslavia over 3.5 years ago. The main supply route to central Bosnia is mountainous and always crowded in crisis. It is a barometer for what's happening or about to happen in what the UN calls the theatre of operations. Each convoy is taken through Bosnia by an armoured escort, their ultimate destination, though, not revealed. The military build-up will continue for some weeks to come. The hope is that its presence, rather than its use, will be effective. But this is the former Yugoslavia, the land of broken promises, of double talk, and above all, of bitter disappointment. Colin Baker, ITN, Croatia.
In the Bosnian capital, Sarajevo, 11 people have been killed in separate attacks by Serb rebels. Earlier, I spoke to our reporter Terry Lloyd, who's in Sarajevo, and asked him about today's developments.
There's been heavy fighting, in fact, in the so-called safe areas of Bihać, Gorazde and here in Sarajevo. We do know the dreadful facts and figures for Sarajevo: 11 dead and at least 8 wounded. We know that at least 1 civilian was killed by a sniper. 5 front-line troops in the suburb of Butmir. They were guarding one entrance to a tunnel which runs beneath the airport and is in fact a vital supply line for the government. And we've just heard, in fact, the news that 5 other people were killed. They were civilians trying to cross Mount Igman. That's the only land route still open. It was closed overnight after that incident, but has since been reopened.
So in a situation like this, what are the chances for the remaining hostages being freed in the coming week?
It's not good news. The UN were right to be cautious. They welcomed the news that communication lines were back open between themselves and General Mladic, the Bosnian Serb commander. But in fact, that led to an ultimatum by Mladic, who said, "I want guarantees there will be no more airstrikes." The simple answer from the UN to that is, sorry, no deal, no compromises. We want the men released immediately.
Terry, thank you very much. The 11 Royal Welsh Fusiliers who are free have spoken to their families for the first time since being released. They phoned home after reaching the UN base at Split.
She still can't believe it, but today came the phone call Kerry Chandler has been hoping and praying for. Fiancé Steve McCabe, one of the 11 Welsh Fusiliers whose call from Bosnia ended part of the hostage nightmare.
He talked about what he'd like to do when he came back, and he said that, you know, he was treated pretty well out there. He couldn't talk a lot about it, obviously, on the phone or anything. But he sounded really happy. And he just wants to get back now.
But in Haverfordwest, the Fusiliers' hometown, the other 22 Welsh soldiers still being held captive were in everyone's thoughts. Today, church services here included special prayers for the release of all the UN hostages. Nigel Burwood, ITN, South Wales.
A man has been charged with illegally importing drugs after the discovery of ecstasy worth more than £500,000 at Dover ferry port. The seizure led to a raid on a house in East Belfast, where drug squad officers found several weapons and amphetamines. John McDowell will appear in court tomorrow. A woman arrested with him was released without charge. The Department of Transport may introduce an even tougher drink-drive breath test. It's considering lowering the legal limit for alcohol in the blood from 80 milligrams to just 50, the equivalent for most people of a pint of beer. And in the Chinese capital Beijing, security has been increased on the 6th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square democracy protests. There have been no reports of unrest there, but in Hong Kong, thousands of people took part in a candlelit vigil outside the Chinese embassy. England have put in their best performance of the Rugby World Cup so far to beat Western Samoa and win their group. The result sets up a tough quarter-final with Australia next week. Wales, though, are on their way home after defeat at the hands of Ireland by a single point.
A chance to fight again or a plane ticket home. The prize is on offer in this afternoon's sudden death shootout. Fulcher's leap and Popplewell wrestles over. An early strike for Ireland. McBride then somehow eludes a mystified and flat-footed Welsh defence. This sparked Welsh ambition. Humphreys bursting over, but it was too little too late. As team officials watched nervously, Hemi Taylor crossed again for Wales. But Ireland were through to face France. Wales can only look forward to playing host to the World Cup in 4 years' time. England's giant pack started well enough, surge after surge, and its smallest member, Neil Back, popped over. The celebrations had already begun when slick handling and Ian Hunter's speed and strength put Rory Underwood clear. But the Samoans weren't about to give up, slicing through England's scattered midfield. And minutes later, another score and another scare as they powered even closer. A penalty try followed by Underwood's double, and England were safe. Worrying for Jack Rowell, though, 5 injuries, among them Will Carling and Dean Richards. So world champions Australia loom large, but ironically they'll face a very different England to the one that put up their best performance of the tour so far tonight. Steve Scott, ITN, Durban, South Africa.
And before we go, spare a thought for the Japanese World Cup rugby team. They're on their way home after a 145-point mauling at the hands of New Zealand. We're off as well, but we'll be back tomorrow. Good night.
Hello and good evening. Well, during the afternoon we've had some quite heavy bursts of showers over in eastern regions. During tonight, however, that's shifting out of the picture. It's leaving much of the country, inland at least, with plenty of mist about. Now we can get a better idea of what's taking place if we have a look at this afternoon's satellite picture. You can see here that the skies have stayed quite well broken over just about the whole country. Now that's been responsible for that mixture of sunshine and showers that we've had today. But what's in store? Well, we've got this large bank of cloud located out to the west at the moment. During the course of tonight, that's going to move in gradually towards the country. Now, it's that weather system that's responsible for cloudy skies over northwest Scotland and Northern Ireland tomorrow morning, and the showers that you see there. Elsewhere, though, it is staying drier and certainly a bit brighter. Now, during the afternoon, however, those showers are becoming more widespread, pushing into other northern and western parts of the country. Elsewhere, it is staying generally drier, although it's becoming cloudier. There's some brightness about, but that's confined only to eastern parts. Not surprisingly, then, that's where you're going to find the warmest of the temperatures tomorrow afternoon. The high there, 18, possibly 19 Celsius. It's cooler further north at 14, and there are only light winds. Here's tomorrow's summary.
Sponsored by PowerGen, generating electricity, whatever the weather. HTV Weather from the Weather Department.
Hello there. Just as we begin to see an improvement in the weather, it's back to work tomorrow. Still, never mind. We can expect a dry night ahead with some long clear spells, which does of course mean temperatures will dip and we'll see lows of a chilly 5 Celsius in places, with mist and fog patches forming around dawn. But any mist should clear fairly early, leaving us with a reasonably fine morning, although cloud will develop as temperatures rise, and so filling in some of the sunny spells around the region during the afternoon. It's unlikely to be completely cloudy though, and sunny spells will manage to break through with top temperatures of 18 Celsius. Tuesday looks set to start bright, but increasing cloud will bring rain from the northwest later in the day. That's all from me. Have a very good night.
The HTV 7-day weather line, 0336 41 40 40.